Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us. It is 11 a.m. here Pacific, 2 Eastern, and 9 p.m. In Israel. Good evening to everyone joining from there. I see that a few people are still signing in, so I'll give it another minute or so before we start. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you, everyone. We'll get started now. I appreciate everyone taking the time to make it on. Today, we are going to go over the Energy Center, the U.S.-Israel Energy Center Proposal Preparation Guideline. We had a webinar a couple months ago on the guidelines themselves, and now we will be going over details on how to prepare the full proposal. We also have Uli Atil and Natalie Galplin joining us today from Israel, who will be explaining the details of that. I always want to start off with the good news. So we did receive quite a few requests to extend the deadline, and we were able to get a 1-week extension. So the previous deadline of September 16th has been moved back 1 week to September 23rd. The proposals must be submitted by the end of day on September 23rd. Again, you will need to submit a proposal online and also send in a hard copy. Next slide. A little bit of administration here regarding Q&A. All questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. You will see at the bottom of your screen, if you have logged in through your computer or also on the app, there is a Q&A tab at the bottom. Please direct all your questions through the Q&A tab. Eitan Yudilevich will be going over these questions at the end and answering as many as we can get. Please do not use the chat box for this, and if you are calling in through a phone, we won't actually be able to take any questions. You're welcome to email us afterwards and ask any questions you have. The webinar will also be available in recording. And we are currently recording this. Please indicate the slide number for where you have the question so that we can go back to it and directly respond. And if we are unable to respond to your question, we will happily connect with you offline to get anything answered. So thank you very much. And Uli, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Guy. Hello, everybody. During the next 20 minutes, I'll be going over with you over the 14 main sections of the full proposal, most of them, except the budget, which will be handled later on. This is a good opportunity to say that the format of the full proposal is such that it must have this 14 main sections in this order, but otherwise you are free to choose whichever numbering or section titles that you would like to do within each section here. So first, perhaps 3 general tips or guidelines concerning the entitled full proposal. We are very well aware that a 5-year program is not easy to plan, and certainly not to budget. 5 years is a long time. So our first suggestion is to try to be more detailed, more explicit regarding the first 2-3 years of the 5-year program. And you can, if you don't have a choice, you can be less detailed during the last 2 years of the 5-year program. The second tip is that remember that these proposals are going to be rated or evaluated based on a proposal selection criteria. This is found in section 5 in the procedures handbook. So at all times, be concerned that you are addressing, that you are actually relating to those criteria by which you are going to be rated in the full proposal. And the third tip is that there's no page limit to the proposal size. That does not mean you should abuse it and exaggerate, but on the other hand, you don't have to be skimpy on the size of the proposal. I'll be using often 3 abbreviations or acronyms. One is CM, which stands for Consortium Member. One is ILL, Israel Lead Consortium Member. And the third one is USL, which is the US Lead Consortium Member. So let's start. And before we get into sections, I want to remind you that in the process of preparing the full proposal, you are required to download the following files. The first one, of course, is the procedures handbook itself, and especially section 7, which deals with the preparation of the proposal. Then there is file number 1, which is the executive summary as a standalone file for those who optionally have prepared and submitted the full proposal as a draft. File number 2, which I'll relate to often, is the full proposal template, which actually includes those 14 main sections, but integrated in them, there are forms in either Word or Excel that you should use in preparing the specific sections. File number 3 is the budget template with 25 tasks, the same budget template for each one of the CMs. And file number 4 is to be used only by the ILL and the USL to consolidate, to add up the budgets of the CMs under their responsibility. So these are the downloaded files, which you should have all downloaded already. Let's start. Section A, the signed cover page. It's the first page in the proposal. This is how it looks. It's a Word form. It's based on a template that you will find in file number 2. It must be signed at the end here by the appropriate authorized company or organizational official. And the same cover page should also be uploaded separately as a PDF file in the upload section, which I'll relate to at the end of this 20-minute presentation. Section B is just a table of contents. So let's move on to section C, the executive summary. It's based on this file number 1 template, of course, without the signature page for those who have prepared. An executive summary in a draft form is an option. But remember that this executive summary must be updated to reflect and be 100% consistent with the information in the full proposal. It is an executive summary of a technical report in all respects. However, it is formatted. It has these tables, which you have known, that identify the different CMs in the consortia. And it must include the following 6 subsections: an abstract, the lead organization background, the innovation, the proposed plan, the collaborative relationship, and the commercial potential. These are 6 subsections that must be included in the executive summary. There's no page limit to the executive summary. Next, section D, the innovative technology, a very important section. You start by defining your target technology or products that are going to be developed in the program in the most explicit possible way. You go on by stating what is the state of the art of this technology today in the market, globally or in your specific market. What are the unmet needs? What are the limitations? What are disadvantages? And what are the challenges that are facing the consortium in dealing with this technology as it is today in describing the state of the art? Important to add in this section is what are the relevant existing technologies or IP that each one of the CMs brings to this consortium, contributes to the consortium. So it's understood what is the relative advantage of each one of the CMs. And finally, what is the impact that this developed technology or products is going to have on solving the problems that you mentioned before and giving solutions to those problems. This is the essence of Section D. Section E, the proposed R&D program. While Section D dealt with what has to be developed, Section E deals with how is it going to be developed. So we're talking about the analysis of the challenges facing the program and the main goals and objectives that have to be pursued. We should mention the R&D strategy and the roadmap and the milestones and the alternative routes. And there should always be alternative or default routes to achieve the program's objective. You have to identify the R&D roles or the contribution of each one of the CMs to the overall program, and also to relate to the synergy or collaboration that you are expecting that will exist between the different CMs. And you have to, at the end, define in a detailed way up to 25 program tasks, which I'll relate to in this slide. So there is a template that helps you to fill in the information that we expect to know about each one of those 25 tasks. So those are 25 tasks throughout the 5 years program. No shortcuts here. We have to relate to the entire 5 years program. The same tasks are for all the IL and US CMs. Same 25 tasks. We have to determine the beginning and the ending date in a MM/YY format for each task. This will be our guide for the next section, the Gantt, and also for the budget, as you will see later. So in the Gantt and in the budget, we will relate to exactly the same 25 tasks that we define here at the end of Section D. Section F. Section F is the program plan, a Gantt chart. I have an example here at the bottom. Notice that the resolution that's required is quarters. No more detailed resolution is required on a quarterly basis, but extending throughout the whole 5 years. So you have here the listing of the tasks and where is the starting month, ending month of each one of the tasks. We also would like to see in this chart whether a certain task is executed by an ILL, a US, or by CMs that are of both countries, as you can see in the chart below. This is a Gantt chart that can be prepared either using MS Project, Microsoft Project, or Excel. You can definitely generate it and submit it as an Excel file. It is also uploaded separately. Okay, Section G, the market. So here we are going to the external environment. We want to understand what is the explicit definition that you have for your applicable target markets. We call it the TAM for your technology, whether it's geographic-wise, application-wise, or both. We want to have want you to try as hard as you can to estimate the size and the growth rate of this TAM, of this market, over the next 10 years. 10 years because 5 years is the program and 5 years beyond the end of the program. We want to understand, when analyzing the market, which are the competing technologies and companies that are associated with these technologies that are either operating now or you expect them to appear in the future, and an analysis of the advantages and disadvantages that these competing technologies have or will have. And you have to try as hard as you can to find a characteristic product for which you can analyze a characteristic unit cost or price of this product today, and also give some estimate of how it will evolve in the future. So now, having a picture of the market, we can go to the second section of second part of section G, which deals with the sales plan. So basically, we're going to fill this Excel table, but give explanations why we have chosen the numbers, especially those that are colored in yellow, which are the input lines. We want to define our representative product and estimate by forecasting the first 5 years of commercialization, and you determine which ones they are. In this specific table, it's the year 2025, but it is not necessarily so. You define which is the first 5 years of the first year of commercialization, and you extend the forecast for 5 years. You do this on an annual basis. So we want to know the forecast in both units and then multiplied by the price in dollars of your forecasted revenue. And we're talking only about revenue, not profits, for the first 5 years of commercialization. This table appears both at the executive summary and, of course, at the second section of section G. Let's continue. Commercialization. Here, we want you to give us an idea of what will happen after the program ends, at the end of the 5 years. What is the timeline, and what is the additional development and the milestones that will have to be taken for the program until initial commercialization? Whether it's more R&D, whether it's gearing for production, whether it's trials and pilots until commercialization. If there are going to be manufacturing issues during commercialization, who is going to manufacture? How hard or easy it is? Which of the CMs will be involved? We want you to relate to them in this section. Marketing strategies, marketing issues. Which of the CMs will be involved in marketing? Which external organizations will be involved in marketing? What are going to be the marketing strategies? And then, if you already have an idea about how the revenue or profit distribution is going to be distributed among the CMs, you don't have to relate to it, but if you have a good idea, it's always good to hear about it. And then, if you have an idea about other external partners that are not part of the consortium today, collaborators, subcontractors that are going to take part in the commercialization, mention them and tell us what are the characteristics that are expected from them. Okay, the next section, cooperation, economic and social benefits. We want to know a little bit about what kind of cooperation and collaboration you expect to have or you should have between the different CMs, both CMs of the same country or between CMs from Israel and the US during the program. We want to know if you already have an idea of how the ownership distribution of the IP that's going to be developed in the program is going to be distributed between the different consortium members. We want to hear from you about the economic risks and benefits to the CMs from participation in the program. During the program, what are the risks and what are the benefits, especially the economic benefits that you expect to have as an outcome of successful completion of this project during commercialization. And then you also have to relate to the US and IL as on a national basis. What are the economic and the social benefits that you expect that will be born and out of this program in its outcome when successfully commercialized? So this is this section. Section J, organization and management. You have to tell us who is the appointed ILL and USL program manager, name and position, and what is his relationship or what is his position in the hierarchy of the organization. Therefore, we want you to put together an organizational chart not of your organization, but of the consortium, of how you are going to interact between yourselves and your consortium, and who are the people that are above and below you in the organizational chart of your company. We want you to relate to major subcontractors and consultants that you have added to your plan that are going to appear in your budget, if they are major ones, and if they have a major role. We want to know about their qualifications, about their experience, and so on. And at the end of this chapter, we want you to include up to 3 professional profiles, not extensive CVs, but a 1-page professional profile of the 3 major participants in the program from each CM. Those are the people that will appear as major contributors in the direct labor part in your budget, I'm assuming. Those that bring the most experience and have a major role in your program. Up to 3 such profiles for each CM. 1 page for each, please. Section K deals with the companies or organizations. So for each one of the CMs, we want to know the ownership and the formal relationship to other CMs, if it exists. The expertise and the ability to execute the specific contribution to the program during the program, in the R&D phase, and during commercialization. What does your organization, the specific CM, has that makes it a good candidate to successfully achieve the goals of the program during the R&D phase and commercialization? What record of performance you have in similar or related undertakings in the past? What available resources, including financial, you have to execute this program, including some relation to the, or some mentioning of the cost sharing and where is it going to come from. It's good to know for us if there are any other relevant projects that have received in the past financial support for R&D from any government agency, whether US or Israeli. This is section K. I'm skipping section L, the budget, and the last section here is the risk analysis. It's actually a 1-page section. Here it is. You have the template in your file number 2. You have to define up to 5 major program risks, or let's say negative scenarios. There can be the technical, managerial, resources, or external, such as market changes, competition, prices change that are not within your influence. Then you have to estimate the probability of their occurrence, which is the ranking, which is here. And then you have to relate to what impact are these risks going to have on 3 program factors: on the duration of the program beyond the 5 years, on the program cost beyond the budget of the program, and most importantly, what impact are they going to have on their commercialization potential. And the keys, okay, the keys for which level of impact is here at the bottom. This is it with all the sections of the proposal. Let me just remind you that at the end, when you're ready, the proposal and associated files for each consortium will have to be uploaded to our Bird upload system. They are 1 file in in Word, the full proposal, as big as it is. The second one, actually, you have to upload it also in PDF format and in Word format. The second file is the budget for each CM in, of course, in Excel format. The IL and the US else have to upload the consolidated budget for the Israeli part and for the US part. So here we're talking about 2 additional files. You have to upload the Gantt, the program plan, either in MPP or MS project or in Excel. And you have to upload the signed cover page, the first page of the proposal as a PDF. Those are the files that you have to upload to complete the proposal submission stage. Okay, Natalie, are you ready with the budget?
Thank you, Uli. Just before Natalie goes on, she'll share her screen here in a moment. I do want to give an opportunity for Eitan Yudilevich to answer a few questions that we received regarding the deadline and signature. Just so everyone knows, you can look at all the answered questions through the Q&A tab. We will also be compiling them to send out along with the recording. But Eitan, please take the floor.
Yes. Thank you, Guy. Thank you, Uri. I want to answer a couple of questions that came up during the presentation. First, it relates to the deadline. The deadline, September 23, is for the soft copy, the upload. The hard copy may arrive to the bird offices after that. We are not giving you a hard deadline, but it doesn't have to get the same on the same day. So the deadline is for the upload of the soft copies, as Uri just explained, and the hard copy has to be FedEx or sent by UPS or by US mail or by Israeli mail, or can be brought personally to our offices immediately after that. So that's concerning the deadline. The other question I had here is concerning at what time on September 23. So we use the California time, PST, for the deadline. So it's at the end of the September 23 PST. The other question I want to answer is concerning digital signature for the cover page. I understand from that it's not handwritten. We accept that for the cover page. There are other questions, but I think this is enough for now. We can continue answering some of the questions after the presentation on the budget. Okay, Guy?
Perfect. Thank you so much, Eitan. We will now have Natalie go into some detail on the budget preparation. Again, all questions, please come through the Q&A. Eitan will be answering them in real time, but we'll orally answer a few of them at the end. Thank you very much. And Natalie, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Guy. Okay, so starting with the budget for the program should present all expenses that are directly associated with the proposal. That means that it should present both the expected grant and the other cost share. The total budget will be comprised of up to 50%, which will be the grant, at a maximum amount of 10 million for the entire consortium over a period of 5 years, and the other portion will be considered cost share. So any expenses which are not presented in the budget will not be able to be accounted for to the program. The effective date, which is actually the start date of the program, should be either starting on February 1st, 2020, or any later date following that date. As mentioned, each consortium member will prepare its own budget. The budget is a cumulative, the total budget is a cumulative spreadsheet comprised of all task budgets, which are also present in the same file. I will show all the tabs and all sheets that are present in the file shortly. The total budget should be more detailed for the first 2 years and should be more in general terms for the following years. You should know that every year you will have a chance and an opportunity to revise and update the budget for the following years. So that's when further details will be able to be presented for the following years. The categories that are presented in the budget are, as you see, labor, equipment, materials, travel, subcontractors, consultants, and other expenses. You should be able to fit all expenses under those titles. Before starting to work on the budget, you should have ahead of time some information ready for the entire consortium, which are task number for each task, task name, and start and finish dates. The budget file for each consortium member is file number 3, which can be found in our website. You'll know that in the budget file, there are yellow cells and there are white cells. The yellow ones are the ones to be filled out. The total budget worksheet is mainly deals with employees' names and professions, equipment details, and materials. Again, I'll show it in a second. And after filling out this information, you can go into each task and proceed by filling out the information specific to each task. Here we have an example, a short example of a task worksheet. All task worksheets are the same, and here actually some details are missing. It is just an abbreviation. So you'll be able to see a yellow column for direct labor, which for each task you just have to fill out the percentage work on each task. For equipment, just fill out for each task the percentage utilized for that task. For materials, you should specify in details the materials that go under each item, line item, and for travel, specific trips taken. The white information, the white cells, are all pulled in from the main total budget worksheet. Now I'm presenting the total budget tables, which are actually where you're getting most of the information filled out. So we'll start with direct labor. Here you should present either specific names of employees, which you know will be dealing with the program, or in certain cases you can fill out a TBD. What is important is to fill out the profession of the employee in this particular program. That means, for example, that a CEO that does specific technical work for the program should be filled out not as a CEO, but I mean, he could be presented as a CEO, but / there should be a profession which is directly related to the tasks, to the technical and research tasks of the program. We have salary caps, which are 150 in the US or 100,000 in Israel. That is a cap for a full-time employee who is employed 100% 12 months on the program. Anyone who is employed less than that, the total cost should be derived as a fraction of that amount. The personnel that shouldn't be included are executive, secretarial, legal, what we consider as overhead employees. Those employees are compensated for, you'll see in the overhead line, the overhead 25%. We allow this overhead without asking for support later on. There are some organizations that have mandatory approved government rates. It happens only in the US and only specific organizations. If you have such case, please, we will try to handle a different overhead. Please acknowledge us. For equipment, here you should group similar pieces of equipment under the same line item, accumulate the cost, and again, in the number of units. You'll see that in the main sheet, percentage on the project is white because it's being filled out from all tasks that follow in the same workbook. We allow up to 36 months of depreciation. That pieces of equipment, which in fact are depreciated over a longer period of time, can be accounted only for 36-month period. Equipment which is depreciated for a lesser period of time, it's according to actual depreciation. Expendable materials should be also grouped under major line items. And under each task, you'll be able to fill out further details. Significant expenses of 50,000 or more, please provide further detail, either a breakdown or just a further description. For travel expenses, you should also group either by destination or by purpose of trip, since you have just limited number of lines to be filled out. Each task can be more detailed. Subcontractors and consultants are treated in similar manner. We're asking to fill out also country of service. It is actually a general instruction for the budget. We allow expenses to be in Israel or US only. Sometimes there are some exceptions for unique services or for significant cost consideration. In such cases, we will be asking to receive further details down the line once the project is approved. But you should be aware that if you want to be clear and on the safe side, only the US and Israel expenses should be budgeted. For other expenses, here you can budget things like patent registration expenses without budgeting the legal cost. You can budget regulatory costs, marketing, field trials, all other relevant expenses which were not accounted for previously. You'll note that there is another budget, another overhead line here, the 5% overhead on the entire budget reported so far. Again, we won't be asking here for any invoices, any supporting documents. It is just an allowance for general overhead. Now moving to the budgets by segment. You'll see this table at the bottom of the total budget worksheet. It's the table is together with the entire budget. Here the purpose of this table is for monitoring, reporting, and for our payments. Since we provide payments every 6 months after receiving and reviewing the report, we need to break down the budget into periods of 6-month segments. Just to make clear how the payments are done, we receive every 6 months a technical report for each from each leader, the US lead and the IL lead, and we receive a consolidated budget. Once those reports are reviewed, we provide payment to each leader, and then they will distribute it to each consortium member. So there could be some delay between the 6-month ending of a segment and until you receive payment. It has to do with the timing of the submission and the review process. Each segment should provide a general estimate of what is the percentage of total budget to be expensed over this 6-month period. The segments do not match the task segments. So you should just make an effort to estimate of how much of the expenses will go into the 6 month. Don't try to match 6-month segments to the tasks. Now I'm moving on to file number 4. File number 4 should be filled out only by the US lead and the IL lead. The file itself, you'll see on this slide the white table, and there are 2 more white tables that follow. That means that actually there's nothing to be filled out. It gets populated by itself. There's just a procedure to follow, how to save all files in the same folder and then open them together. You'll be able to see full instructions in page number 46, how to make the consolidation of all consortium member budgets. The first table presents the breakdown of all tasks and into all budget items. You'll see a yellow cell here, that's the 2.5%. That's an overhead allowance for the leaders, for the US lead and IR lead. Altogether, it should add up to a total country budget. Here you see the other two tables that also should be, all those three tables should be incorporated in the proposal that you submit, and also the files should be uploaded. So the next table presents breakdown to company and organizations according to budget items. And the last table presents by segments the breakdown with and without overhead. That's another presentation of the budget. Yes, please.